Please rise to pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, call the members.
Councilor Vido,
Present.
Councilor Avellaneda,
Present.
Councilor Recupero. Here. Councilor Garcia,
Present.
Councilor Vega Maldonado,
Present.
Councilor Robinson. Here. Councilor Rodriguez. Here. Councilor Taylor. Councilor Lopez.
Here.
Councilor Brown.
Here.
And Councilor Zabit.
Present.
10 members present, 1 absent.
Okay, at this time, we'll move on to memoriams and celebratory resolutions. We have a moratorium resolution introduced by Councilor Brown regarding Jeanette Washington.
Let me read it. Whereas Jeanette Washington was born on January 1st, 1938, and was a lifelong resident of Chelsea and an active member of the Mother of People's AME Church congregation. And whereas Jeanette Washington is survived by Deborah, Charles, Alan, John, and late Sheila, and her 2 sisters, Shirley Thompson and Roberta McCoy, and a host of grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And whereas Jeanette Washington was an independent person who would perform many tasks and instilled in her family to follow her example. She left her family with a gentle yet stern combination which only she possessed. Jeanette would help anyone in need and was always willing to share. Whereas Jeanette Washington passed away on November 4, 2021, but her spirit will live on through her children and grandchildren. Now therefore be it resolved that the Chelsea City Council share in this moment of reflection for one of its own, Jeanette Washington, for her service and work in Chelsea, and wishes to express our deepest condolences to the Washington family.
What is the wish of the council? You have the floor,
Just
Councilor.
wanted to, for records, Ms. Washington passed away a few weeks ago, but we did want to put this resolution in, and we had some, in our last meeting, we weren't able to get it in and wanted to get it to the family, so that's why we have it in again tonight. Thank you.
Any other councilors? Seeing none, that order is adopted, the moratorium. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda.
The next item is the Chelsea International Band. Whereas the Chelsea, introduced by Councilor Garcia and all members of the council. Whereas the Chelsea International Band is a marching band that was founded in 2019 by the Committee Honduras Unido de Massachusetts. And whereas months prior to the pandemic, the local nonprofit Comité Honduras Unido de Massachusetts dreamed of having a local marching band that could perform at community events to showcase the power of music and culture. And whereas the local nonprofit worked hard to raise the necessary funds to purchase instruments and developed a local outreach strategy to recruit members of the community. And whereas today the Chelsea International Band is composed of 18 Chelsea residents ranging in ages and cultural backgrounds. Many members have never played an instrument before. And whereas the goal of the Chelsea International Band is to teach participants how to bring communities together through the love and appreciation of music, and whereas it is admirable to see their talent shine through a local events like the Chelsea Multicultural Festival, ribbon cuttings, and other city-sponsored events. Now therefore be it resolved that the Chelsea City Council recognize the outstanding work of the Chelsea International Band in the arts and culture.
Councilor Judith Garcia.
I make a motion to adopt unanimously under suspension if there are no objections, and I wish to speak on it.
Seeing no objection, you have the floor.
Thank you. Muy buenas noches. Good evening. Tonight is a night of celebration. Tonight is a night of recognizing the work of what is possible when we have agents of change in our community that are willing to uplift in the arts and in culture. Hoy es una noche de celebración, es una noche de alegría para nuestra comunidad, porque hoy vamos a reconocer el bello ejemplo que pasa cuando nuestros residentes se unen para motivar y para realmente traer cambio en nuestra comunidad en cuestión de cultura y arte. Para mí es un honor reconocer a la Banda Internacional de Chelsea por su mérito en las artes, en la cultura. For me, it's an honor today to recognize the Chelsea International Band for their merits in the arts and culture. And let me tell you a little bit more about them. The Chelsea International Band, as you may have heard from this resolution, they're Chelsea residents, 18 Chelsea residents, many of them who had never played an instrument in their life. And just before the peak of the pandemic, they came together to create a marching band for Chelsea to really showcase themselves at local events. They learned how to play an instrument through time, dedication, commitment, and they created this beautiful band that has delighted many of us in local performances throughout many local events here in Chelsea, from ribbon cuttings to other local events being done at nonprofit organizations, charging absolutely nothing. So, para mí es un honor reconocer a la Banda Internacional de Chelsea, y para comentarle a las personas un poquito más de esta banda, es una banda creada aquí por el Comité Hondureños Unidos de Massachusetts, que por su esfuerzo y mérito recaudó fondos para comprar sus propios instrumentos. Varios de ellos nunca habían tocado un instrumento en su vida y se unieron con dedicación, con amor, con pasión, todas las noches a practicar para crear una banda para esta ciudad que gratuitamente se presenta a muchos de nuestros eventos locales para deleitarnos con arte y cultura. Así que para mí es un honor reconocer a esos 18 integrantes, que yo sé que varios de ellos están aquí hoy, que son diversos, de diferentes edades, que se han unido para deleitarnos con tan bello homenaje antes de que ocurriera la pandemia. Y veo que aquí se está presentando el maestro Israel, que es liderado por él. So right now, Israel is here, and he's the one that leads the band. So I really want to thank you for your contributions and for the uplift that you're bringing to our community through culture. Así que les quiero dar este premio para reconocer sus contribuciones a nuestra comunidad y la dedicación que tienen para nuestra comunidad. Así que muchísimas felicidades, congratulations, and thank you for doing the work that you're doing. Felicidades.
At this time, we'll take a 5-minute recess to, I'm sorry, Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to also salute and congratulate the Chelsea International Band for their dedication, for their rich heritage that they continue to instill in the city of Chelsea. The pandemic gave us all something that we can reflect on, and I'm just grateful that you guys and you folks reflect on something that you can share with our city. I'm very much appreciative and want to just say congratulations and thank you for your dedication and your support of our city. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll just take a 2-minute recess so that the band members can come up to the well in front, and we'll have a picture-taking ceremony. Thank you. Yep. So at this time, we will now open up the public hearing portion. We have two items on the agenda for public hearing. One is the City Council is holding a joint public hearing with the Board of Assessors regarding the FY22 tax rates, which the City Council will be voting on tonight to adopt. And also, the Chelsea City Council is having a public hearing on the proposed zoning amendment to add requirement for adoption of community impact agreement with the city of Chelsea. Now, so this part of the meeting, we are only taking comments on those two matters. Public speaking will be later, but at this moment, anyone wanting to speak to the council about the tax rates or the proposed zoning amendment, please step up to the microphone, state your name and your address. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tom Ambrosino, City Manager. I'm here in support of the two votes that are required tonight in order to allow the city to move forward with the setting of the tax rate. As I mentioned last week, we did a pretty comprehensive review of our valuations this year, particularly focusing on the 4+ residential units. As a result of that, we are prepared to set a tax rate provided the council takes the two votes that I recommend. That will result in a tax rate of residential properties of $13.24 per thousand and commercial properties of $25.72 per thousand. The two votes that I'm asking you to take tonight are the votes that provide the most benefit possible statutorily for residential taxpayers. It would be adopting the 35% residential exemption and adopting the minimum residential factor that results when you do a 175% shift, putting more of a burden on commercial, industrial, and personal property, and creating some relief to residential taxpayers. If those two votes occur tonight, then we can set the tax rate, and the rates are likely to be very close to what I just suggested. There's always a chance there could be some minor adjustment as we submit the final tax recap sheet in December. I also ask that you do this tonight, take the vote tonight by unanimous consent, and allow the vote to happen with just a single vote. I ask that because delaying this to the next council meeting on December 6th, that's kind of late in the game. It means that we're way down at the bottom of the queue for the Department of Revenue, and it just puts a lot of pressure on us to get our tax bills out for that January 1 deadline. So I'm asking you to do it tonight, and then we can start the process of getting the required information in to the Department of Revenue. That will require unanimous consent to make this one vote. If I could indulge, if the council president could indulge me on the second public hearing, I rise as an opponent to the specific language in the ordinance. I'm not opposed to the principle of a linkage fee. We've had a lot of discussion about this, and there's a lot of good in the ordinance as it's proposed. My only request would be we send this to a subcommittee so we could talk a little bit more about the specific language. Ultimately, this will be the council's determination, and I will certainly enforce whatever the council decides. But I do think there might be a way to improve upon some of the language as presented, at least at the moment. So if it's sent to subcommittee, I think we might be able to work out a reasonable compromise. Either way, whether it's this ordinance or what changes I might propose, I do think it's pretty clear. Either way, when we're adopting a linkage fee, it does require a home rule petition. It does require legislative authority, I should say. So whatever ultimate language we decide upon, or this council decides upon, will require a home rule petition. So that's it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anyone else on the tax rates or the proposed zoning amendment as part of the community impact agreement? Seeing none. At this time, I will close the hearing on the tax rate. We'll be voting on that tonight. On the hearing on the zoning agreement, that will remain open. We do have a scheduled subcommittee meeting In the future, we were supposed to be earlier, but due to a heavy city council schedule, that subcommittee meeting got bumped up, and we retained and kept this hearing in place because it was already put in notice. So because of that, we'll remain keeping open. Next item on the agenda, we now will go to public speaking. At this time, anyone willing to wants to speak to the city council on any matter, please come up to the microphone. Please state your name and address. You'll have 4 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Antonio Hernandez. I live in Tree County Road, homeowner. I'm here because I got a problem. I got a pole, electrical pole, on back of my house, on my property, by the way. The last year, I held it from falling down. The power company came in and put a pole, and what they did, they tie it up. They use a choker. A choker is a cable. They put around and they clamp it. And last week when we had the storm coming up, that pole went in and pulled the new pole, and it's pulling it down. Underneath, my barbecue was within 3 feet away from the pole. I got some pictures. I'm going to leave it here. The bottom of the pole is completely rotten. Now, I'm a bridge painter, and I know about rigging. I know what it does when you have the cable hooked up in the wrong place, how it's going to swing. Once it keeps going up, if any snow gets on top of that pole up there this year, that pole is going to come up. I barbecue in the middle of the winter. You know, it's on my property. We call in. I call OSHA. They told me to call the Attorney General. I came here. They sent somebody out there and said, Tony, we can't do nothing. And I understand. But this is public health out there. You know, it's an issue out there. If it goes to the other side, it's any kids out there, the cables, they don't know who owns the cable. Somebody put it there. I didn't put it there. Somebody put a pole on my property. I mean, that was put in before I owned the house, but I own my house. You know, it's my property. And I get nothing from here, nothing from the state, because the Attorney General said, give me a number to call. So I did call, you know, and they sent somebody. They sent Verizon. It's pulling the cable, because still have a land phone. It's pulling the cable off. So all that they did is stretch the cable up and left the pole there. They didn't move. All they had to do, they got a pole in there. All they had to move all those wires to the new pole, and that's gone. The pole, but nobody's responsible. I mean, I'm here. I need some help. And something's got to get done. And I want to make this public. If I get hurt here, if I get hurt in there, because people won't be responsible. This is life. This is one of the reasons I'm going here, because I'm sick and tired. You know, I pay my taxes every day. I'm never behind. Every year, never behind. You know, I need some help. Thank you.
Good evening. Roberto Jimenez, 40 Eleanor Street, member of the Chelsea School Committee. I'm here to speak about the precinct and district map that the council passed last meeting. That's up today for our reconsideration and rescission. I'm asking that the council vote to rescind the map that was passed last meeting and open an actual community input process for municipal redistricting. I will begin with one very important point, which is that combining councilors Recupero and Lopez could potentially open up the city for a lawsuit based on a legal argument of continuity of representation. That was certainly a consideration discussed in briefings that the Drawing Democracy Coalition had around legislative redistricting, and I took part of as part of my other job. Beyond that, I believe that the current process has not allowed for the City Council to properly weigh in on the process, with just a hearing and then a vote 60 minutes later. As far as I know, there have not been any conversations on the demographics of the people in these new precincts, so are we taking into account how we may be keeping together or splitting apart specific communities of interest in these drafts? Even the way that these maps were put out is inaccessible. I did a lot of work in redistricting as part of the Drawing Democracy Coalition, and even I am having a hard time reading these maps. Seems to me like the process we had is lacking in community input and has been done in a way that confuses rather than informs the public. I think we should do something similar to the process that the legislature ran for their redistricting process, which involved a lot of community engagement in different communities, including Chelsea. That is how we won a new incumbent Free State Rep district. How has the Chelsea City Council engaged the community throughout this process? It doesn't seem like this crucial step has happened. Ultimately, we're looking at a deadline of December 15th, which is still 3 weeks away. We have 3 weeks in which we can have more conversations about these precincts before decisions are made. Let's take advantage of that. Furthermore, the December 15 deadline is for precincts, not for districts. We could draw new precincts and then take the time that we need to figure out which precincts should be put together to form the new districts. And lastly, I am curious about what happens if we don't meet the December 15 deadline. Will the state fine the city? Will anybody go to jail? I don't think so on either count. So I would rather the city focus on a process that will result in districts that have been properly vetted and discussed by the people of Chelsea and this body, instead of ones that were rushed for political reasons or expediency. I ask that you vote to rescind your vote from your previous meeting, open a proper community input process, deliberate between all the city councilors, and ensure that the maps that are passed have the full backing of this community and not just a handful of people who put them together. Thank you.
Oh, this is tall. My name is Marisol Santiago. I'm the Chelsea School Committee woman for District 3. I'm here today to express my concern as well for the re-precincting that was done and the discussions that have been had since last Monday. I'm not going to reiterate what our colleague Roberto already said, which I wholeheartedly agree with as facts. But more importantly, to also bring us back to the point that there's 16 precincts in the whole city of Chelsea. We need to be looking at data that actually talks about like how, if and how we need to touch those lines around re-precincting. Typically it's done when there's population growth, which the city has experienced. But the changes that are being discussed, I'm trying to understand the rationale behind that proposal, and I'm hoping that there can be some continued conversations and communication about that with the community, about the decisions that are being made. Ultimately, each seat, each person that's elected here sits here representing the district. Clearly, the seat is of the people. And so we want to make sure that we're not also perhaps suggesting things that are not aligning with the electorate of those districts. Lastly, as a woman, a Puerto Rican woman that lives here in this community a long time, I think it's very important that we honor the process and the voices of our people. These 2 districts that would be impacted deserve to have equal representation, and it doesn't seem like the proposed map would allow for that level of equity that has existed. So I would just hope to have more information from the council about the decisions that are being made and why the proposed map was the only proposed map that was sent forward. I do recognize that we need to change the lines if there's been growth, but I think more attention to the process and more transparency with the community would be actually very helpful. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. My name is Mirna Concepcion de Rodriguez. I am the pastor of Nueva Vida UMC that's located at 195 Shirtlift Street. And I was appointed to this congregation back in 2018, and I have been serving the community for the last 42 months. And 21 of those months has been in the middle of this pandemic, which all of us have been struggling with, and we have a community that has been suffering and struggling through this pandemic. I'm here today seeking your assistance to have a lien withdrawn, which the city placed on our parsonage, which is church property. And the property is located at 32 Bellingham Street. And the invoice for this lien dates back to 2005, 2006. You need my mask off? Better?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. You want me to start again? Okay, so you want me to start again? So my name is Mirna Concepcion de Rodriguez. I am the local licensed pastor at Mount Bellingham Nueva Vida UMC at 195 Shirtlift Street. And we have a parsonage that's located at 32 Bellingham Street. And we are here to ask for the assistance to have a lien removed from the property which the city placed that dates back to 2005 and 2006. And I wanted you to see who we were, so I brought many of our members that are here. These are local residents who live and work in Chelsea. The church is an extension of their home. It is their refuge. It is their place of worship. And it is the place they come when they have needs. So I want to give you a little history real quickly that this church, Mount Bellingham, has been in this community since 1853. It was a church that welcomed immigrants back in the 1800s and continued to welcome immigrants. So in 1981, they invited the Hispanic Latino community into the church. And since 1981, we have had Latino pastors appointed to Mount Bellingham and to Nueva Vida United Methodist Church. The name of the congregation has changed, but the mission has remained the same. Our mission is to help our community and to help those that are in need. As I said before, the members of this community, of our church, live in this community. They work in this community, many of them locally. Our children go to school here. They have graduated from Chelsea High School, and many have gone on to college. So it is a community that looks to continue to get involved and help themselves and educate our children to move forward. The church building is also used by 3 other congregations who also have members that live in this community. In 2019, we received a tax lien statement from the city, and our worship leader, who happens to be here tonight also, had come to the city and asked why did we get a tax bill? Because we're a church, and he was told that it was probably a mistake. Not to worry, there was no further explanation, so we forgot about it. In 2020, we received a letter from the attorneys D'Ambrosio, Brown, regarding the tax lien that was placed on the property.
30 seconds.
So here's the thing. The original bill is $5,000, which the church is willing to pay. We're not willing to pay the tax that is put on the property because we're tax exempt, so we don't know how this happened. The attorneys say that their Mass General law allows for this to happen so that there's an instrument of taking of property when taxes haven't been paid, but this definitely conflicts with Mass General Law 59, Chapter 5, which says religious organizations are exempt. So we're looking for relief from the city from this bill. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else that'd like to speak to the city council before I close that portion of the meeting? Seeing none?
Mr. President, if you could you just explain to the residents, because many of them are new here in City Hall, what we can and cannot do tonight regarding their...
Speak into the microphone, Councilor, so that everyone can hear you.
Can you just explain to the residents what we can and cannot do tonight so they don't believe we're just sitting here looking at them without being able to respond? Thank you.
So for some of those who are sitting here for the first time in the city council chambers and speaking in front of the city council, the public speaking portion is the ability for any resident or stakeholder to address the city council and state whatever business they want to speak to that may be in the agenda. City councils, however, it is not an ability to react or respond to any questions or issues raised. The items that we can only address are those that are on the agenda. So I do understand that my colleague, Councilor Garcia, has placed a motion on this subject matter in our agenda, and we will shortly get to it, at which point we expect it to be introduced and then sent to the city manager. But we'll get to that, but I just want to make sure that you understand there's no back and forth between the councilors and the audience, so that you don't think that we are not listening to your concerns, as Councilor Brown has tried to tell us, that we want to make sure that you know we heard you, but our rules don't allow us to have a conversation back and forth. With that being said, is there anyone else who would like to speak to the City Council on any matter pending tonight? Seeing none, I will now close that portion of the meeting, and we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Councilor Robinson.
Can we take her motion her order, out of order.
Okay. If she wants to, but no, okay. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Counselor Lopez asked that we accept and file the regular minute meetings from November 8th and November 15th. Seeing no objection, we are moving on. Next, we have communications from the city manager. Communication received from Tom Abruzzino regarding a request for the approval of a union contract with E911 supervisors. Want to read it?
Want me to read it? Yeah. Request for approval of unit contract with E911 supervisors. Dear councilors, pursuant to section 431 of the Chelsea City Charter, I'm writing to request city council approval for the cost items of the collective bargaining agreement negotiated with the Teamsters Local 25 on behalf of the E911 supervisors. Some explanation is required on the timing of this request. The E911 Supervisors Union is a very small union consisting of only 2 members, the 2 supervisors in the Emergency Management Department. The separate contract for this union, a 3-year contract covering the period July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2022, was actually negotiated with this group in the summer of 2019. At that time, it did not submit the contract to the council for approval. The reason was there were at least then no additional costs resulting from this contract. The wage increase in this supervisor contract were tied to wages to be subsequently negotiated with the E911 dispatchers. As you can see from Article 11 on page 10 of the contract, the wage increases for the supervisors for FY21, July 1, 2020, and FY22, July 1, 2021, are required to be the same as any percentage increase negotiated with the E911 dispatchers. Those negotiations with E911 dispatchers just concluded this past summer, and the percentage wage increased 0% in FY22, 3% in FY22, 0% in FY21, and 3% in FY22. Were approved by the City Council in late September. Accordingly, it is now necessary to approve the resulting cost impacts, 3% for FY22, for the supervisors pursuant to this attached contract. I have attached an order for the requested approval. There is no need for any separate order for this transfer or appropriation of funds to cover this 3% wage increase for FY22. With just 2 union members, the financial impact is quite modest, and the necessary amounts were included in the $90,000 transfer request associated with the council's approval of the E911 dispatchers contract.
Councilor Robinson?
Accept and file a communication under suspension. There'll be something coming up on the new business.
We have a next communication received from the city manager regarding the reduction of free cash appropriation and balancing of FY22 budget. Dear councilors, I am writing with a request that the city council reduce its use of free cash in the FY22 budget from $892,092 to $0. We no longer need any free cash to balance the FY22 budget. At the time I submitted to the City Council an FY22 budget in early May of 2021, I anticipated that we would need some free cash to balance the budget. That proposed FY22 budget was premised upon anticipated revenue from new growth of approximately $1 million. However, our actual new growth for FY22 submitted to the Department of Revenue is more than $3.9 million. Because this new growth number is in far excess of what we anticipated at the time of budget submissions, there is no longer any need to utilize free cash cash reserves to balance the FY22 budget. For the above reason, I am asking the City Council to vote to reduce the free cash appropriation of $892,092 approved in conjunction with the FY22 budget to $0. A draft order to accomplish this purpose is attached. The vote requires just a single reading. Councilor Robinson?
Accept and file this communication under suspension. There'll be some coming up on the new business.
We have a communication from the city manager in regards to the fiscal year 2022 tax rates. Dear councilors, in follow-up to the November 8th, 2021 presentation on taxes and valuations, I'm writing to request 2 votes required by the City Council prior to setting the tax rate. The first vote required is setting the residential exemption pursuant to MGL Chapter 59, Section 5C. I'm recommending that we maintain the 35% exemption, the maximum allowed by statute. This will provide the fullest possible tax relief to benefit the owner occupants.
The second vote required under MGL Chapter 40, Section 56 is for the City Council to determine the percentage of the total tax levy that should be borne by each class of real property and personal property. This city has historically always voted by virtue of adopting a minimal residential tax factor that results in a 175% shift to transfer to commercial and industrial properties the maximum amount of the tax levy allowed by law. I recommend the same this year. If the 175 shift is adopted along with 35% residential tax exemption, then residential tax rate will likely be $13.23, depending on DOR approval, per mil, and the commercial rate will be $25.68 per mil. This will result in a reduction of the average tax bill for owner occupants of condominiums, single and two-family homes, and a small increase for three-family owner occupants. I've attached a draft of the necessary orders. Council Robinson?
I'm accepting and file a communication under suspension if there's no objections, and if the chair, if I can ask if we can take them out from new business and act on them now, if there are no objections.
Council is asking to take out of order the tax rates, and they are items out of the packet. Yes, so we have the,
Yeah, boom, boom. 22F10 and 22F11. Okay, you want me to read it?
yes, you can read.
The first one before you would be ordered that the Chelsea City Council adopt the minimum residential tax factor for fiscal year 2022 with a 1.75 commercial, industrial, and personal property CIP shift factor.
Council Robinson?
On the adoption, if there are no objections.
Council Recupero? Please, and then into the microphone.
Okay. So we're gonna be voting on this thing here, which says they're gonna increase on three-family homes.
Small increase, it's a less than
Okay.
1% increase.
Here's the part that I can't understand here. Everybody gets a decrease, but three-family homeowners get an increase. Now, why is that if everything else in our city went up? Condos went up, this and single family went up, everything went up in our city, but everybody gets a decrease, but three-family gets an increase. That's putting a tax burden on homeowners that own their homes here and on renters that the homeowners rent to. That means that anybody that owns a three-family, I could see, what is a modest increase, 1%, 2%? But the part that I still don't understand is, single family increased, condos increased, but yet they get a reduction. But three families, they don't get nothing. What they get is an increase. What is a modest increase? 1%, 2%, 3%? So how is that fair? Everything in our city went up. So if everything in our city went up, and then now you're lowering theirs, but yet you're not doing it to the tree. You're increasing them. So what you're doing is you're creating an issue for homeowners that are here that have renters. Because in our city, we only have 20%, not even, that are actually homeowners that own their houses in the city. The rest are big corporations. They own these buildings. So it doesn't matter to them what they do to the tenants. But the poor homeowners that are here, which want to keep their tenants, which they don't want to kill their tenants and drive them out, will have to increase when everybody else decreases. So that's the part that I don't understand. It does not help the homeowners. I own a three-family home, okay? So I'm not advocating for myself. I am in a way, and I'm also advocating for the rest of us that own homes and live in them. Why? Well, the corporations that own these big buildings, they don't matter to them. They're gonna turn around and drive the tenants out. So what happens is, it's a quicker way to get people out of the city, to gentrify. You're gentrifying faster. Because if you, in return, are lowering the rates for 1, 2 condos, but not for trees, so if you're going to lower it, Everything else went up just the same. You telling me a condo didn't go up? You telling me a single family didn't go up? So if you split a three-family, okay, average three-family, 700,000. So each unit is what? 3, 6, 9, less than 300,000 apiece. So what is a single-family home? 300,000? What are you charging? 300? What is it for a condo? 3, 4, 5. So what is happening is a simple thing. For years I've been saying the same thing, but I'm going to tell you what the thing is. Through the years, they always put the burden on three-family homes. They always have. Predominantly, that's what they do all the time. They do not consider the homeowners that are there. I get a 35% residential exemption, but my taxes went up twice as much. Okay, my house is worth twice as much, but so is a condo. So is a single family. So is a two-family. So if they see a decrease, a three-family should see the same as them, because they're not a big apartment unit that has 10, 12, 14 units. You should try to help out. You want to keep what you have, keep the homeowners that are here. Don't drive them out. Why are you driving them out? That's all you're doing, is you're driving them and the tenants out.
1 minute, Counselor.
Huh?
1 minute.
Okay, here's a final thing to it. It's plain and simple. The big corporations in this city, 80%, it's owned by big corporations. 20% is owned by you, the homeowners that are here. So you, the homeowners, stand up for yourselves. Go up and tell them, give me a break too. The corporations, they don't care. They're going to raise it anyways, and they're going to drive people out. So if you're a homeowner and you're in a three-family home, you advocate for yourselves, just like I'm trying to do for you now, because I'm one of them. And I think it's unfair that everybody gets a break except three families. They should get the same break as everybody else. Thank you.
Anyone else? Is there anyone who objects to me talking from the chair? No, thank you. This is a subject matter that I have been pretty much working on for the last couple of years, and I just want to go back here and discuss some numbers that were presented here as part of the presentation, and I call it the good news, bad news. So important numbers that we need to know is that in this vote, the city manager is asking us to increase the tax levy of our budget. Our budget is over $220 million. And the portion of that budget that is paid for by property taxes is $66 million. And we're going up 2.5 from last year. Last year was about 63, 64 million. He's asking us, please, go by the mass allowed 2.5%, and we're getting to 66. Okay. Then that, of course, that portion, the 66 million, is spread around all the different properties, and everyone has to chip in to the 66 million. The issue that I had raised a few years ago was that I was looking at the values of the larger multifamilies, and they weren't assessed properly. I want you to imagine, in simpler terms, I have a three-family, Paul has a three-family, we're next to each other, we're pretty much the same. I look at my tax value, they're telling me I'm worth $500,000. They look at Paul's house and they're saying he's only worth $250,000. You're like, wait a minute, we have the same house. How can I be at 500 and he's at 250? That's technically what I was raising, but Paul wasn't a three-family like mine. His was a much larger building, and hence it didn't make any sense of the values that they had. So I urged the city manager to please look into this, and they did. They hired a specialist. He came in and he went to work in that 111 category, 112 category, which are the larger multifamilies. And guess what? In our books, they're finding a 30% increase in the values of that sector. That value comes up to $284 million. $284 million was now found within our community on these multifamilies. To get an idea of what that means, I live at 325 Access. It's a 160-unit building in Admiral Hill. 160 units. It's appraised and assessed at $45 million. Imagine if tomorrow we saw 7 more of these pop up in our community.
That's what that number is. 7 Axis buildings in value was discovered. It's like going to your, your washing machine and you find $20. You're like, oh yeah, I didn't have. That's what happened. We found that value. That's what the neighbor had next door. And that's what I was saying. How can you ask me to pay my portion of the taxes when you have value up there that you're not getting and spreading? Now, what does that mean? That $284 million translate, if you tax that, use that by the rate of the 1323 mil that we're using, that comes to $3,757,000. Almost $4 million of taxes. That's not new taxes. All that the $4 million taxes means that those multifamilies are going to be paying that $4 million that we're asking for. It's not going to be borne or paid for by the single-family homeowners, the condo owners, and so forth, because they weren't paying their fair share when they were spreading this all out.
One more minute.
That's about $4 million. So we're still going to have a residential tax exemption. And based on the fact that we captured all this value, across the board, all the other categories of residential are going to come down. Number one, we have a lower tax rate than last year. Number two, a 3%, almost 4%, 5%, and nearly a 0.81% increase on the 3 families, less than 1%. So if you own a 3 family, you paid $100 last year, you're paying $101 this year. Not really much of a difference, but your value went up. But despite values going up in all those categories, we're still paying less. Why? Because we pressed and we got all that value. The bad news, really simple, there's more work to be done. That's all. We did a lot of work this year, or rather the assessors department finally did. We're going to continue to do more work, find more value, and I'm urging my colleagues to vote yes in favor of this because it was an incredible job by the assessors, the consultant, to find that value, and we are lowering our taxes despite what my colleague says. We are lowering the tax rate despite your house being worth more this year, and it's marginal for 3 families. I'm talking 1%, yet 30% in the multifamily sector. So thank you for the time.
Hey, can I say something?
You cannot. You've already been recognized. Anybody else other than Councilor Recupero or myself can speak? Anyone else? None. The clerk will call a roll.
A yes would be to accept, a no would be to not to accept. Council Vido?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, hold on. Question. Yes, Councilor Lopez.
Which are we voting for now?
We're voting on the minimum residential tax factor, which will shift the tax burden more to commercial than residential.
1.75?
Yes.
Point of clarification, so we're referring to page 2, item H. On the agenda, page 2, item H. I'm sorry, page 3, item H.
Yes.
Thank you.
22F10, ID. Yep.
Says it on the top.
Correct.
So
On the
different-
top, it's the minimal residential tax factor is what we're voting for, with 1.75 commercial, industrial, and personal property. No further questions? Clerk will call a roll.
Council Vido?
Yes.
Council Avellaneda?
Yes.
Council Recupero? Councilor Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Vega Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez? Councilor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilor Lopez?
Yes.
Councilor Brown?
Yes.
And Councilor Zabit?
Yes.
11 in favor, none opposed, the motion is adopted.
The next order is the City Chelsea Council will adopt a 35% residential exemption that will provide homeowners with a $2,864 exemption on their taxes. Councilor Robinson?
Vote on the adoption of the 35% residential exemption.
Council Robinson asked for a roll call vote on 35 residential exemption.
That we can ask for, and we gradually had worked up to the 35% over the last couple of years here to help residents in our community.
Passed.
Yep.
35%, yeah, I think your program.
Yes.
So on the agenda, it is listed as 3.5.
It's a typo,
It's a
3.5.
typo?
It should be a typo. It should be
It's
35%.
It's 35% for
That's
the
correct.
record, anyone who has the
The,
agenda.
the order is written correctly. It does say
Correctly.
35%.
Thank you.
Okay. Any discussion?
Go ahead. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call.
Counselor
call.
Vido,
Yes.
Yes, sorry.
Counselor Avellaneda,
Yes.
Counselor Recupero, Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Vega Maldonado,
Yes.
Counselor Robinson,
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez, Counselor Taylor,
Yes.
Counselor Lopez,
Yes.
Counselor Brown,
Yes.
Counselor Zabit,
Yes.
11 in favor, none opposed, motion is adopted.
Okay, now we'll go back to our regularly scheduled program here, agenda, and that is that we will have a communication received from the city manager, Tom Ambrosino, regarding approval of a 5-year contract for the computer-aided dispatch and records management. Dear councilors, I'm writing to request that the city council approve a 5-year contract with Central Square for the new computer-aided dispatch and records management, CAD RMS. The cost is $144,000, $950.75 annually. And the total value for 5 years is $724,753.75. For over a year, the city's emergency management, in collaboration with the IT department and the police and fire departments, has been involved in a lengthy effort to secure a new CAD RMS system. The current system is long past its useful life. After a rigorous RFP process, the city selected Central Square as its vendor. Central Square is offering an advantageous fixed flat annual fee for its new CAD RMS system, provided the city agrees to a 5-year contract. The City Council already has approved funding for the first 2 years in the contract, the previous CIP, and free cash appropriations. Given likely that it will take up to 9 to 12 months for setup, data migration, and training on the new system, EMD and IT are recommending a 5-year commitment. See the memorandum. Pursuant to MGL Chapter 30B, Section 12, any contract exceeding 3 years must be approved by the majority vote of the City Council. For the above reasons, I respectfully request that the City Council approve a 5-year contract. A draft order of the item is attached. Councilor Robinson?
Under suspension, there'll be something coming up under new business.
Okay. We have a communication received from Myrna Concepcion from the Nueva Vida United Methodist Church regarding assistance with a lien placed by the City of Chelsea dated by 25/2006. Councilor Garcia?
Through the chair, I just ask that you read only the 2 first pages.
Dear Councilor Garcia, my name is Myrna Concepcion de Rodriguez. I am the local pastor of Nueva Vida United Methodist Church located at 195 Shirtless Street, and we have the parsonage located at 32 Bellingham Street in Chelsea. I was appointed to this congregation by Bishop Swathwana Devahad of New England United Methodist Conference in July 2018. Since then, I have been working with the church membership and families that live in Chelsea. I'm writing to you looking for assistance with a lien that the City of Chelsea placed on the church's property at 32 Bellingham Street that dates back to 2005-2006. The building at 195 Shirtless Street was originally known as Mount Bellingham Episcopal Methodist Church, whose congregation made up of immigrants settled in Chelsea as far back as 1800. As the community changed, the congregation of Mount Bellingham Episcopal Church Methodist Church welcomed the new immigrants and gave birth to New Mission Church, which is now Nueva Vida United Methodist Church. As of 1981, Latino pastor has been appointed to Mount Bellingham Episcopal Methodist Church and the Mission Church, which was later named Nueva Vida. Part of Nueva Vida's mission has been to serve the community. We have approximately 150 members, 95% who live in Chelsea. Our children go to public schools. Many of our families live in walking distance. Those who do not live in Chelsea live in Revere, Everett, East Boston, because the rents are too high in Chelsea. Everyone works 1 or 2 jobs to pay the rent. Many of our students work part-time to help make ends meet. During the pandemic, the church remained open to assist families and others in the community with food, clothing, and rental assistance. We are a church with a vision for the future of our children and families. During the pandemic, we started music lessons, now have a group of 10 youth playing instruments and singing. We have started talking to Phoenix Academy, and now we can mutually help each other since we both serve the same community. The parsonage at 32 Bellingham Street has always housed pastors and their families, has served as an office and meeting house, and as well as housed others in need of temporary place when finding housing in Chelsea. Right now, the parsonage house, worship minister leader and his family. In 2019, we received a tax title settlement from the city of Chelsea. We went to City Hall but could not get anyone to tell us what it was. Our workshop leader spoke to someone who told him that 32 Bellingham Street was part of the church property and should not be taxed. He was told that if this was part of the church, not to worry, that it could be a mistake. We did not hear from anyone again on this matter. On Saturday, February 29, 2020, we received a letter from attorneys at D'Ambrosio Brown LLP regarding the tax lien that was placed on the property at 32 Bellingham Street. We immediately called the office and started speaking to Anthony Roxanne Stokes on this matter. We were told that we owed taxes on the property, and I quickly stated, impossible, churches do not pay taxes, this must be a mistake. We have gone back and forth on this matter for over a year. We were promised documents that the attorneys had on the case so we could negotiate the matter. Those documents were not forthcoming. On March 28, 2021, I sent a letter to Attorney Stokes in regards to the situation. We also offered to pay the original $5,900 on behalf of Mount Bellingham Methodist Church, which was no longer in existence. It was not until September 2021, that I was able to speak to Attorney Peter Brown, who was handling the case with his assistant, Tiffany Mozok. They have been in communication with me and have given me documents, but these do not seem to be of any worth since they don't solve the problem. We've been requesting to find any records of information from 2005, 17 years ago. This is unfair, and although we have tried looking for records, none exist at the church. We have no records or bank accounts from Mount Bellingham Episcopal Church. We would have to ask the New England Conference to do research if they have any records. This will continue the case for several more years. What I was able to download from the court available documents is a copy of the lien placed on the property address at 32 Bellingham Street. I also requested an accounting from City Hall regarding the address of the Mount Bellingham Episcopal Nueva Vida beginning January 1, 2005, and the account balance at the end of 10/14/21 is zero balance. The new bill is $251.21 due the 18th of November 21. I also requested an accounting beginning at 1/1/2004, but have not received a response. If we are obligated to pay this tax with interest, we are setting a precedent and paying a tax that is unconstitutional. This can also open the doors for other churches to be taxed in the future. The city has converted the bills into a tax so they could put a lien on the property, which earns interest as a tax. This is unfair and again unconstitutional. Nueva Vida is a 501c3 organization. As pastor of the Nueva Vida congregation and advocate for the properties that are occupied and managed on behalf of the congregants in the community, I am seeking relief from the city for the Mount Bellingham Episcopal Church Nueva Vida from this interest that has accumulated over the years and all legal fees pertaining to this case. I pray that you will be able to assist in this matter. May God give you wisdom and do the benefit of our community's peace. Mayor Concepcion de Rodriguez. Councilor Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I make a motion to accept and file the communication under suspension if there are no objections, and there will be something coming up under new business, an official order coming up under new business.
Thank you. Seeing no objection, that communication is accepted. We have a communication received from Parking Clerk Jeanette White Citron regarding the action taken on November 9th, 2021 Traffic and Parking Commission meeting. Is there a motion to adopt?
Suspension if there's no objections.
Is there anyone that objects to this being accepted under suspension? Seeing none, that order is accepted and communicated. We have another late communication received from City Clerk Jeanette White Citron regarding reconsideration on redistricting taking November 5th. Councilor Recupero objects. Okay. Yep. Okay. We're moving on to unfinished business.
That doesn't mean it doesn't come up at the next meeting.
It does, yeah. It'll come up at the next meeting. Doesn't matter. Next, we're going on to second reading. Resolution introduced by Councilor Avellaneda regarding the authorization of the sale of 440 Broadway to Traeger Companies for the price of $1,150,000 for the development of 29 units. Endorse the project pursuant to the conditions set forth by the Evaluation Committee and any future conditions imposed by the city, and authorizes the city manager to negotiate on behalf of the city on a city and land disposition agreement with Traeger Companies. Councilor Garcia?
I make a motion to roll call vote.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, I wish to speak on it.
Councilor Garcia, you have the floor.
So I will briefly speak on this, and I will also be transparent to the public that's here. I actually work for the neighborhood developers, and the neighborhood developers has actually worked with Traeger Companies on a completely different project, not the project that is before us. So the project that is before us is 440 Broadway, which is at the heart of Chelsea, and I am in support of what's in front of us. Essentially, what's in front of us is to allow our city manager to sell that property for $1.150 million, and I am in complete favor of this because I know that the city administration has worked really hard on producing and offering affordable homes to our community that is in such dire need of affordable homes. This project does not only address the need for affordable rental units, but it also addresses the needs for more home ownership opportunities. So there are 10 units here that offer home ownership opportunities to families here in Chelsea. We have a mix of studios, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom apartments that really speaks to the needs of our families here. So anything that involves offering a mix of options to our families that are affordable, for me, is important. And now let's talk about triple impact, right? The triple impact is that they are offering a very innovative way to conduct business in our community. They're offering what's almost called like a communal kitchen, where different entrepreneurs here in Chelsea can have the opportunity to really showcase their talents with food and any sort of entrepreneurship activities that they wish to really engage in without having to worry about the high costs of renting a space on their own that could be really, really expensive. So this is a triple impact opportunity for us to support local entrepreneurs, many of them at the base level, and it's also an opportunity to support affordable homes, a mix of affordable homes, not only rental units, but also home ownership opportunities. So I am fully in support, and I want to thank the city manager and his administration who works behind the scenes to really make this happen. So yeah, I'll be wording in support.
Mr. President?
Councilor Zabit? Yes.
Mr. President, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Councilor Vidal?
It's really hard to hear with the side conversations happening. I don't know if it's just because I'm online, but Councilor Brown and Recupero keep talking, and it's hard to hear the person that's speaking in the forefront.
I remind my colleagues to please press the microphone button in front of you if you're going to have any side conversations so that the feedback is not picked up. Thank you, Councilor Vidal. And apologies, the Z and the V just dyslexic over here. Councilor Recupero.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you what this is, okay? It's 1/3 of those buildings. They're affordable. For who? When you build affordable housing, let me tell you what it is, okay? It's simple. They get a tax break, and you don't. The rate that they charge, and then it's affordable for who? Doesn't guarantee that Chelsea people are there. What it does is, it increases your taxes and theirs don't, because they get a tax rate because it's affordable housing. What I want to see is affordable housing units where people own, where you own it. Don't make affordable housing for rentals. Make affordable housing for people to own. And there's something else that you should know. The more affordable housing you have, the more the corporations make money on you. They corporations set the rate. So don't be fooled by affordable housing. Affordable housing is a gaffe because it does not help you, the average individual. because the rent is still the same. You want to make affordable housing? Make affordable housing for people to buy, where they can live here, not the corporations that own it. So if you want to do that, these people are going to make 29 units. They're going to make 10 affordable housing units. That gives them a tax exempt. That gives them, they paid less taxes than you, but they're going to charge the same amount of rent to somebody else. They're not going to make it affordable for you because you're not going to be able to pay market rate value. So when you want to do it, I'm in favor of affordable housing for people to own, not for corporations to come in and start building all these big buildings where these people can't live in it. And then when you're talking about affordable housing, I talk about one thing, affordable for the people of Chelsea. There's no guarantee that the people are going to be there because by law they're not required to. They can only say Chelsea preference. So that doesn't, how many Chelsea people actually live in these buildings that they tell you? Or how many Chelsea people can actually afford market rate value? Who can afford a 3-bedroom for $3,000? An average family can? So who are you making it affordable for? Meanwhile, you or me that owns a 3-family home, my taxes keep going, but theirs don't. They get, most cities have 10% of affordable housing because they understand. The affordable housing unit, it does not help everybody. What it does is it gets rid of people faster. Corporations, our city, 80% of our city is owned by corporations. 20% is owned by homeowners. So remember, the 20% are paying more taxes than these people.
30 seconds, Counselor.
Okay. That's the whole thing I'm trying to make the people understand. Affordable for who? You vote for something, for this. It's not affordable for you, the people. It's not a good deal. The city dies when you have too much affordable unit. That's why the tax burden is shifted to the regular people that own it. They should pay the same amount of tax as anybody else, but they never will because that's the way it was set up. You got to
10
understand
seconds,
the system.
Counselor. Counselor Lopez.
Through the chair, I would like to ask the city manager how much we pay for this building and how much are we selling for? How much are we losing? Every year, in the taxes said that our buildings, our homes, the price are going up. How come this is going down? If you can answer that question, please.
Through the chair, the city manager will answer the amount that the city paid for this property and the contracted amount that it is selling for.
So we acquired this property for affordable housing purposes back a few years ago for $1.3 million, and we are selling it for $1.1 million. But our goal when we put this on the market, when we put this out for proposals, was not to maximize our sale price. That was not the goal. The goal was to get a good affordable housing development. We were not particularly concerned about the sale price. In fact, this sale price is much higher than certainly I anticipated. Again, we could have, if our goal was to maximize the money we got, we would have had a different RFP, but the RFP was structured to basically entice affordable home ownership, and we knew that would likely drive down the purchase price. So it was not our goal to maximize the purchase price, but it turns out that we're getting about $200,000 less than what we acquired it for.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, there is an error in a fact there. These are 100% affordable, not 50%. The numbers are 28 total units. 18 units will be rental at below AMI prices of the Greater Boston starting at 50% and below that. And the 10 units that will be affordable will be sold at 80% AMI. That being the case, is there anyone else that likes to make a statement? If not, at this time, we'll continue with the roll. Seeing no objection, we will now do a roll call. The clerk will call a roll.
A yes will be to accept, a no will be to deny. Councilor Vido?
Yes.
Councilor Avellaneda?
Yes.
Councilor Recupero?
Yes.
Councilor Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Vega Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez? Councilor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilor Lopez.
Yes.
Counselor Brown.
Yes.
And Counselor Zabit.
Yes.
11 in favor, none opposed, motion adopted.
Motion carries. The next communication, or rather the next business, we're moving on to new business. The order introduced by Councilor Recupero regarding the city manager and instruct the city clerk to look into new additional polling locations. Councilor Recupero?
I'd like to adopt on the suspension of the no objection. I'd like to speak on it.
Seeing no objection, Councilor, you have the floor.
This year, there seem to have been, you want our city to be more fair and open and get more people to go out and vote. So make the places to vote closer to where the districts are. Don't make them all in one place. Put them the way they used to be. They used to be in the districts where they were at. There used to be more places where you can go and vote. That is a good thing. You go back to where the way it used to be, to have more, and you'll have a bigger turnout. People, you have to turn out and vote, because that matters. It matters to you, because whatever we do here, it affects you. And if you find any of us that stink, that you don't like, you get rid of us. That's what you're supposed to do. But if you don't go out and vote, what good are you? Your vote doesn't matter. Your vote should matter. So by making it closer to where you're at, maybe it'll produce more people going to vote. And it's a good thing. Instead of making it one centralized area, make it in different sections like it used to be 30 years ago. And you will maybe get a bigger turnout, and people will go out and vote more, because our city needs to vote more. You need to go out and vote. This is a great thing. This is the only power you have, is your vote. If you don't use it, you don't have it. So use it, and use it for the good of yourselves, because your elected officials are supposed to work for you. That's why they're up here. That's why I'm up here. I have no motives or anything. The only thing I am is want to use. I am an average person like you that wanted to make a change. And that's the only thing. And any of you can do the same thing. It does not matter. You go up and you want to make a change and you think you can, go and do it, regardless of what it is. And by having more places where you can vote, you can voice your opinion more. And it's a good thing. Your voice is what matters. Thank you.
We have a next order introduced by Councilor Recupero regarding the city manager instruct the city clerk to look into porta potties at polling locations. Councilor Recupero,
I'd like to adopt under suspension of the no objection. I'd like to speak on it.
you have the floor, sir.
When I was outside this year and where we vote, people could not go to the bathroom. They had to go to Dunkin' Donuts. They had to go all over the place. So if that's the case, why not put the portable porta potty where people can go and go to the bathroom? If they're not going to allow you to go inside to go to the bathroom, where are you supposed to go? Run to Dunkin' Donuts? That's the only place close to you. So it's a good thing to have those portable things there for that specific time when people are there, so people won't be inconvenienced and don't have to run. It's a good thing to do. Thank you.
Next order introduced by Councilor Garcia regarding the city manager looking to the communication by Pastor Mina Rodriguez from the Nueva Vida United Methodist Church and seek to resolve the issue with a tax bill. Councilor Garcia.
I make a motion to adopt unanimously under suspension if there are no objections, and I wish to speak on it.
I'm sorry, you want a roll call vote? Or
Just to adopt unanimously.
motion to adopt under suspension.
Thank you. So very briefly, I want to take an opportunity. I know this will fall more on the hands of our city manager, but as you may have heard during the public speaking portion and the letter that was so eloquently written by Pastor Mirna, who is here today with her congregation, I would like to add something that was amended. This letter does not include the actual tax bill that they currently have. And that tax bill is not 251, it's not zero, it's actually up in the 20,000s. And that is unaffordable. This congregation cannot afford to pay a tax bill up in the 20,000s. So, City Manager, I ask you and your administration to really take a moment to look at this congregation who took the time to come out today to really beg. As you may have heard, and as you heard on this letter, they did not come here once. They came here on multiple occasions to try to get this resolved, and it got them nowhere. So they're here today to really bring this case up, and with Pastor Mirna called me, she knows that I was quick on really trying to get a background on this and bringing this to light so we can fix this. So let's stand true to our word. I know, Tom Ambrosino, city manager, you are very good at responding, but I ask you on behalf of this congregation that you really take the time to prioritize this, because this is a bill that they can no longer be carrying. It's a heavy burden, and it is no secret to any city councilor here that faithful congregations, church congregations, played a huge role during the pandemic in terms of response, in terms of emergency assistance for many, many families. So I ask you, please look into this, and I hope that you can have a response for us in the next council meeting on December 8th. Thank you so much.
Councilor Recupero, you have a minute.
Huh?
You have a minute.
1 minute?
1 minute.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, when the pastor spoke, they're tax exempt, so it cannot be tax. It has to be water. You can't say it's tax. It's a water lien, which goes onto your tax. But it can't be taxes because you said we are tax exempt. You don't pay taxes, so it has to be water. But here it says because your water gets attached to your tax bill. That's what they did now. So if you don't pay your water, it goes to your tax. So what it is that you owe is taxes. And I hope the city works something out with you where you could pay so much. You know what I mean? You don't have to, because it has nothing to do with your tax. I want the people to understand it's not taxes, it's water. That's what it is. You can't say it's your taxes when it actually isn't. It's your water. Because you said, the pastor herself said, we are tax exempt.
We have, next item on the agenda is an order introduced by Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't actually going to say anything, but I'm led to say something. I think there's a lot of confusion here. I would like to see the city manager give us a response before we kind of commit and feel that we have to do anything necessary. It's the first time this councilor here, I speak for myself, to hear about this. And some of this language states that this goes back a few years. So I don't know how long this tax or this water bill or whatever we have before us with this appropriation we are trying to ask the city manager to make. We need to be well informed about what we are doing. Where's the responsibility? Who was saying what and why were they saying that, and why wasn't the city more involved in it? I'd like to see exactly what's our responsibility here. If we have a responsibility here, I know we will do the right thing. If we don't have a responsibility, then that's another issue that we have to address some other how. But the responsibility falls on the responsibility. So I, as a city council, would like to know what we're actually engaging in. So I asked the city manager, as my colleague, the maker of this resolution or this order here, to find out before we get emotionally attached into these requests. Because again, we all have been through difficult times, everyone, and if we do these things, what we're asking the city manager to do without having a history of how they occurred, then I can assure you that we're opening up a can of worms, and there will be other organizations and entities up here asking for the same relief. So I think we should do our homework. We should have a conversation and find out what we're liable and what's our responsibility here. Thank you.
Councilor Brown had asked the city manager if he would address the city council. If there's no objection, we'll have the city manager address us at this time, as I see him waving, saying that he has some relevant information.
So the pastor came to see me a few weeks ago. I did speak with her, told her I would look into this, conferred with the city solicitor and our outside counsel that handles our tax lien. This is an old water bill from 2004, 2005 that was never paid. Has nothing to do with this pastor. It's a long predecessor. And so I'll resolve it. I've talked to our outside counsel. We'll get this resolved. Probably will resolve itself with payment of the underlying basic water bill, which the pastor has agreed that they would pay. So I expect this to be resolved. It just might take a month or so, but
Okay.
we'll resolve it.
Thank you. So as the city manager clarified, this is not a tax bill. This is a water bill outstanding old water bill that will be handled, I'm sure appropriately, by the city manager and the staff. Moving on, we will now go on to item 2234, which is an order introduced by Councilor Vejaneda regarding that pursuant to the MGL 30B, Section 12, the City Council approves a 5-year contract with Central Square for a new computer-aided dispatch and records management systems. Councilor Robinson is asking for a roll call vote.
There are no objections.
The clerk call roll.
Councilor Vido,
Yes.
Councilor Avellaneda,
Yes.
Councilor Recupero, Councilor Garcia,
Yes.
Councilor Vega Maldonado,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez, Councilor Taylor,
Yes.
Councilor Lopez.
Yes.
Councilor Brown.
Yes.
And Councilor Zabit.
Yes.
11 in favor, none opposed. Motion is adopted.
We have an order introduced by Councilor Vejaneda regarding the Chelsea City Council reduced the previous appropriation, FY21 certified free cash for balancing the FY22 budget, vote ID 21F93, from $892,092 to zero, thereby eliminating any use of certified free cash to balance the FY22 budget, because such funds are no longer needed to increase the anticipated FY22 real estate revenues. Councilor Robinson asked for a roll call.
On the adoption, it only takes 6 votes for this to be adopted.
The clerk call a roll.
Councilor Vido,
Yes.
Councilor Avellaneda,
Yes.
Councilor Recupero, Councilor Garcia,
Yes.
Councilor Vega Maldonado,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez, Councilor Taylor,
Yes.
Councilor Lopez, Councilor Brown,
Yes.
and Councilor Zabit.
Yes.
11 in favor, none opposed, motion adopted.
Next item on the agenda is an order introduced by Councilor Rodriguez, Garcia, Vidal, Recupero, and Lopez regarding that the agenda item ID 2230, that the Chelsea City Council adopt a new state and ward and precinct lines and maps, amended by Councilor Vejaneda to adopt the maps districts 2022B, vote be taking on November 5th, that vote taken on November 15th, 2021 be rescinded. At this time, I'm going to rule that this order is out of order.
I challenge the chair under roll call.
The Councilor Garcia challenges the chair. The clerk will call a roll on the challenge. A yes vote will uphold the challenge, the order by the, or the, rather the ruling by the chair that this order is out of order. And a no vote will mean that the city council objects to the ruling by the.
A no vote means the item comes before you again.
Right. A no vote means the item comes back. A yes vote means that the chair, you stand with the chair that this has been ruled out of order.
Can you clarify that one more time?
A
Through the
yes
clerk.
vote sides with the president that this is out of order. A no vote sides with the challenger who thinks that this item should be coming back.
Point of inquiry?
First, Councilor Brown, then Councilor Vidal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, out of transparency, and we have folks here that hasn't been here in some time or new, can we explain to them what's taking place here now?
Sure.
Thank you.
There is an item that was, an order that was introduced by Councilor Rodriguez, Garcia, Vidal, Recupero, and Lopez regarding a vote, agenda item 2230, that the Chelsea City Council adopted at its last meeting, awards and precincts and maps, and amended by vote adopted in maps 22B. These councilors are asking that the City Council rescind this vote, and I am ruling that this is out of order. My understanding and in the consultation with reading the rules and regulations of our City Council is that, one, this was there's only two methods that a vote can be rescinded or rather renewed. One is by reconsideration. In order to do that, a city councilor must file a reconsideration vote within 24 hours. That was not done. Second, there is any item that was voted upon by the city council cannot be readdressed within 90 days. So if they want, the petitioners can file this in 90 days. And I also looked at our rules and regulations and looked at the number of motions that can be accepted by a president or chair on the motions. And the motions are under 5. Motions to be received by the president are to adjourn, to lay on the table, move for a previous question, to postpone to a day certain, to commit, to amend, to postpone indefinitely, and limit the time of debate. This is under, the motion to rescind is not covered, so therefore I rule it out of order. Again, there's no debate on this. There's the explanation. You can vote yes to support the chair's decision that it's out of order, or no and go with the councilors who put forth the petition. Clerk, call a roll.
Councilor Vido?
No.
Councilor Avellaneda?
Yes.
Councilor Recupero? No. Councilor Garcia?
No.
Councilor Vega Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez? No. Councilor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilor Lopez?
No.
Councilor Brown?
Yes.
And Councilor Zabit?
Yes.
What was it?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yes, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 noes.
Motion carries. We'll now move on to the next item on the agenda. We have an order introduced by Councilor Avellaneda regarding that pursuant to the Section 4-301, that the Chelsea City Charter, the Chelsea City Council approve the cost items set forth in the collective bargaining agreement negotiated with the Teamsters Local Number 25, representing emergency communication supervisors for a period of January 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2022, dated July 18th, 2019. Council Robinson asked for a second reading.
Actually, to a second reading if there are no objections.
Thank you. We'll now move on to an order introduced by, the last two items were already adopted. So at this moment, I'll ask if there's any announcements.
You forgot to acknowledge me after the last vote, and I wanted to ask a question to the city solicitor.
I'm sorry.
Hello?
Yes. What is the question?
Well, the question to this, it was about the order that, 2 orders ago, the one that, that didn't make it, where the chair was challenged. I wanted to ask the city solicitor, because I remember a couple of times that there were orders that went in to rescind votes that the city council had taken, even though we didn't go through the proper motion of going and filing a motion to reconsider. So I just wanted to ask the city solicitor more about the legalities of that, but you didn't acknowledge me, and we already voted, and I don't know where I stand.
Well, she can give a legal opinion. Again, she's rightfully so, can give a legal opinion in that sense, but I think the votes stand. So if you want to ask her a legal opinion of, again, and she can send that communication to you, but her standing does not, her legal opinion does not have a, I would say, standing with the ruling from the chair based on our rules and regulations.
That doesn't sound right when she is there to consult us for every other council meeting. I don't understand how her legal opinion wouldn't have any standing. I don't know, there's a lot of funny business happening, and it just doesn't feel right, and it feels really uncomfortable to even sit on the city council. If legal opinions are not going to have a standing in our council meetings, if we're not allowing an opportunity for us to have debate and dialogue, I think there's a lot of red flags that are being raised here.
Okay.
I mean, I only have one eye, and I can smell it from a mile away.
Well, you have your opinion, and we appreciate that. So is there any other announcements?
Well, I still want to ask the city solicitor.
You'll find that that portion of the meeting is gone, and you can ask her outside the course of the
But you
meeting.
didn't acknowledge me, Roy. You mentioned me, and you went straight to roll call.
Again, it's the limitations of trying to run a meeting and do Zoom. These are the problems that we have with having a Zoom meeting, so there's got to be a way to raise hands, make a noise or something. I apologize, but Any announcements?
She actually asked for a minute to speak, and you didn't allow her.
I did. He
You
acknowledged
allowed-
Brown and then ignored me.
Councilor Brown, but you don't allow her. So how come is that? Everybody has the same power that you have. We all have the same power here. And
Thank-
we all, we should be allowed to speak, even though whatever answer they're gonna give, but we should be allowed.
Council Vido's microphone works, and she could have spoken into the microphone and said, Counselor,
Raise your hand.
she could have spoken.
I did. I did, and you
didn't-
acknowledged me.
Again, I did not hear it over the microphone. I'm sorry, I did not hear it through the hearing. We are now taking announcements.
Wow.
Councilor
This
Garcia.
is
on
not
an
fair,
announcement.
Councilor.
So I'm going to make an announcement, and I'm going to make the announcement in English and Spanish. Voy a hacer un anuncio en inglés y en español. Esto lo que acaba de pasar ahorita, this what just happened right now, councilors here were silenced. We were not allowed to speak on a matter that matters to this
Councilor
community.
Garcia, that
Los
is not an
concejales
announcement.
hoy fueron silenciados.
That's not an
Shame
announcement.
on all
That's
of you
not an
for not
announcement.
allowing us to
100%.
speak. Shame on you.
This meeting's
You
adjourned.
you claim that you represent Latinos. Do you really represent
Meeting is
Latinos?
adjourned.
Shame on
This
all
is an
of you.
abuse of
All of you.
gerrymandering, and it's happening here and it happened tonight. Shame on you.